System 1 loaded.
System of corruption. Fight your crimes and crimes. Freedom. Justice. Liberty. Hope. Love. Truth. Anonymous.
Greetings, people of the world. We are anonymous.
It has been burning for a week now.
We're almost to 2018, but the 2017 fire season is still in full blaze. Southern California now feeling the heat. It was an alert that warned more than 12 million people of unprecedented fire danger in Southern California. The Thomas Fire was the first to start. Winds fueled it, sparking other fires. The Thomas Fire, more than 230,000 acres. It is 7.5 times the size of San Francisco, or another way to look at it, it's larger than New York City and Boston combined.
Tonight, that series of fires still scorching Southern California. Roughly 116,000 acres now burned. Flames leaping over the Pacific Coast Highway.
Greeting to the citizens of the world. We are anonymous. We have been prompted to warn you all fellow citizens that recent California wildfires, especially since October 2017, were not natural disasters, but most likely results of geoengineering. They definitely seems to have deployed directed energy laser weapons. How does a forest fire cause total obliteration to houses without trees themselves burning down? What type of so-called forest fire leave trees intact, but vaporize homes without a trace? Firefighters reported that it is like we've been nuked. Never seen anything like this. If these fires were caused by wind, why isn't everything blown all over the place? Why aren't there piles of ash on the streets and debris in the trees? Why was the aluminum wheels on this car melted? Trees aren't burned around it. Nothing around this car burned to generate this type of heat. How did so many vehicles sustain melted metal when the trees and grass and asphalt were left unscathed by the flames? Many of them trees are pine, which ignite and burn with little effort since pine trees are very flammable due to their sap. Some of the neighborhoods were burned so thoroughly there was only 2 inches of ash left of the entire house. No way this was a forest fire. A key question here is, where did the fire come from when it didn't burn many of trees between obliterated houses? You would have to be a fool to think these are wildfires. Some felt a weird energy in the air that made their heart palpitate. Some felt an energy vortex move through their homes. A firefighter known by one of the guests on a radio show told some shocking details on the air. He said a cop went and knocked on the door of a house and told them they had to be out of there in 1 hour. The fire was nowhere around the home at that point, and that's why they had an hour. The policeman came back to that same house in 5 minutes and the house was fully engulfed in flames. No way the fire would have moved from nowhere around there to fully engulfing the house in 5 minutes. Know that. In lot after lot, there's little to no debris where there once were houses. Cars were torched, yet trees untouched. The car tire rubber and glass were nowhere to be found but totally combusted, and homes were reduced to unrecognizable rubble and ashes. No official story about how so many fires self-ignited all at once in the middle of the dark of night. 5G, Pacific gas and electric, climate change with Diablo winds are all being talked about, but none come close to explain the hellfires that occurred in torched metal, glass, rubber, granite countertops, toilets, stoneworks to the ground in minutes, virtually no structures left at all. Cars were melted, brick foundations dissipated, but left trees and other buildings intact. California fires are burning at over 2750 Fahrenheit degree. Normal house fires max out at 1700 degree. Class take thousands of degrees to melt, which means these fires generated their own direct heat, like a directed energy butane torch, except they are using directed energy laser technology to pulse the plasma clouds, stir the wind for energy and release up to 1 trillion watts of laser power at any one source. This is why cars and homes completely melted, but shrubs, leaves, plants and neighbors' houses were untouched. It is directed energy weapon, amplified and focused cyclotron resonance. What are the chances that 3 of the largest avionics military laser companies are located in the same exact area as the Santa Rosa, California fires occurred, yet none of them got torched? L3 Technologies, Keysight, AG Industries and Sonoma Design Group are all in Santa Rosa and are held by some of the largest weapons manufacturers. Defense Daily ran an article on September 27, 2017. The U.S. Air Force plans to conduct an experiment in fiscal year 2018 using directed energy weapons to counter small unmanned aircraft systems. The experiment will seek to determine whether high-energy lasers and high-power microwaves could help in such ways. Also, now let us look at some flip cars in Santa Rosa. Neither fire nor wind would flip cars like this. Directed energy weapons can levitate and flip over cars, as happened on the 9/11. Those burned, levitated and flipped vehicle pictures show eerie resemblances to the California wildfires. Forest fires do not flip a car like this. This is not normal, but you can find a similar phenomenon from the 9/11 World Trade Center Ground Zero. You saw this same thing on the obliterated cars on the 9/11. The photos show how houses usually end up after a fire has burned them. They are normally blackened. However, the basic structure of houses remain after the fire. They do not vaporize into dust and a few inches of ashes like those houses obliterated by the recent California wildfires.
This is not a carbon fire. This is the only fire in the whole wide world that's considered a forest fire where the forest did not burn. The forest didn't burn here. All the glass melted. All the structural materials that used to be a house have disappeared. They have disappeared. You have a couple of bent poles here, a couple of poles that are bent, but you have absolutely no materials. The houses have not fallen. The houses have disappeared. The materials of these contents of these houses are gone.
The houses in Santa Rosa were turned to dust except for a small amount of debris. That's right, the World Trade Center buildings 1, 2 and 7. This is a photo taken at ground level after the towers fell. Where's all the debris? These buildings were massive. This is another photo taken at ground level, with the van sitting on the ground. There were 1.25 million tons of debris piled on the ground. But it's not there. This is a list of the debris that should be piled up in the photo. 43,600 windows, 600,000 square feet of glass, 200,000 tons of structural steel, 4 million square feet of gypsum, 6 acres of marble, 425,000 cubic yards of concrete. Where did they go? According to mainstream media reports, the New York City Authority under the then Mayor Rudy Giuliani allegedly swiftly exported all of the debris to China. However, if all the aforementioned building materials actually had fallen on the ground, there should have been a considerable seismic activity recorded. Besides the fact that the 14 so-called Israeli art students, a part of an art group Gelatin, Project the B-Thing, who were linked to Mossad spy ring, got construction passes and lived on the 91st floor of World Trade Center Building 1 for months and wired 3 WTC buildings with explosives called BB-18 for the 9/11 inside job controlled demolition with the cooperation of the then WTC security company, Securicom as principal Marvin Bush, Bush Jr.'s brother and Silverstein. who managed to pull the World Trade Center building complex in 2001, then acquired the $4.6 billion from the biggest insurance payout fraud in history. There are theories that directed energy weapons were also used at the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001.
Know that there were 14 separate fires. How did 14 separate fires start over such a wide area? This is one of the cars or trucks or something that was in this fire, and you'll notice that the glass here, which has a melting point of between 2,600 and 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? We're talking forge, foundry, furnace temperatures to melt this glass. Glass does not melt on its own, guys. Open air fires do not create this kind of complete combustion of the materials, all right?
This morning, contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City College of New York. Professor, nice to see you. Extraordinary seeing Al Gore and Bill Clinton there together with Charlie, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, they did not get into this discussion, though. But it is fascinating. I mean, lasers, really, to change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts.
When they say there will be heavy wet snow at 40+ degrees, and there is, all appears okay. The global elites have, it seems, covered all the bases.
This is potentially a game changer.
But this is experimental.
It's experimental, however, in the laboratory so far it works. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. It condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning.
In January 2011, E.L. Rothschild LLC, a private investment company led by Chairman Sir Evelyn de Rothschild and CEO Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, announced the signing of a definitive agreement to acquire a 70% interest in Weather Central, the world's leading provider of interactive weather graphics and data services for television, web, and mobile. Weather Central's forecasting offers businesses and consumers a suite of science-driven weather information products. The company will continue to operate under CEO and founder, Terry Kelly, as well as current management. Financial terms of the acquisition were not disclosed.
China's seen, central China, parts of central China, seen the worst drought that they've had in many decades. Now, you've got this investment with your wife in Weather Central. How could that actually help out in terms of planning for things such as droughts?
Well, I think that first of all, we have 25 broadcast clients currently in China, and we are the #1 provider of broadcast weather graphic solutions in the country. I mean, you had this downpour, I believe, in the last 24 hours, which has caused even people losing their lives, and situations like this. With the detail that we can put up through the technology that we give to the various weather stations, this makes people more aware of it. On the whole, it's a question of giving the opportunity. I mean, we have also launched an operation called My Weather, which gains access to the first truly personalized weather application for the web and mobile devices. You can go up on myweather.com.
1974, Weather Central is a global provider of professional on-air, online, print, mobile, and enterprise weather solutions and forecasting, with 180 employees, including 70 meteorologists. Weather Central provides weather graphic systems, proprietary forecast models. Weather Central has secured a leading 46% market share of North America's weather information delivery market for broadcast and media, delivering content to hundreds of millions of viewers. It is the largest provider of broadcast and interactive web weather solutions for media companies in the US, Canada, and Mexico.